All right, so we're picking up where we left off on our discussion on how to determine the correct number of significant figures in our calculations. So here on this video, we're just going to practice. Go ahead and pause this and answer these problems, and then we'll do them together. Okay, so I'm assuming that you had paused this and you actually attempted all these problems. So just to go through these calculations again, we got to make sure we're following the correct rules. This first problem is addition. We have subtraction. So again, with these calculations, we are going to always use the least precise measurement. So you could think of it as the least placement value. So if I plugged in all these numbers in this addition problem, I would get the answer 5.4125. Okay, and the reason why we get so many digits is this goes to the thousandths, this goes to the hundredths, and this goes to the 10,000ths, and this whole thing goes to the 10,000ths. However, we're doing what? Addition. So we're going to go to the least placement value. The one to the least placement value is the hundredths place. I could even just draw a line going down to the hundredths place. So I see in this case, my final answer, because to the right of the hundredths place is a 2, I drop the 2 and 5, it would be a 5.41 as my final answer. Okay, so as a reminder, I know the 0.07, these leading zeros don't count, and there's only one sig fig in this actual number, but this is following the rules of the least placement value, so it's to the hundredths place, and it's 5.41. If we go to subtraction and we write this out, we would get the answer 5.679. We look. We want to go to the least placement value. Again, that's the tenths in this case, not the hundredths, not the thousandths, but the tenths. So our answer now, the 7 we would have to round up, is 5.7. Now we're going to follow a new set of rules. And with multiplication and division, the rules is the least number of sig figs of the numbers that you're multiplying and dividing. So with this first problem, we would get a big number, 5.02814. And if we look, this particular number has 4 sig figs. This particular number has 3 sig figs. So our final answer should have 3 sig figs. So you would go 5.02. Look to the right, it's an 8. We'd want to round up. 5.03 would be my final answer. If I go to the next problem, 365 divided by 1.8, I'd get a pretty big number. It's 202.777, and my calculator keeps going, so it's basically 7 repeating. Whoops, sorry about that. Let me go back. So this has 3 sig figs. This has 2 sig figs. So I want to only have 2 sig figs, which would stop at the O, but the 2, I drop it. So I can't write 200, right? Because this only equals 1 sig fig. So I can't do that, right? Now I can't go 200 and put a decimal because now the trailing zeros have a decimal, so that would be equal to 3 sig figs. And I only want 2 sig figs. So how do I do that? I'd have to do scientific notation. So I'd have to write 2.0 times 10 to the 2 to get the 2 sig figs that I want. And that would be my final answer. Why? This trailing zero would count because of the decimal. Oh, that keeps happening. I apologize. So I have 2 sig figs there, and it's 200. I wouldn't round it up and say 210, right? Because 202 is closer to 200 than it is to 210. Now let's go to the next page since this keeps popping up. Go ahead and pause this, and then we'll work through these problems. All right, so I'm assuming you came back, and if we look at these problems, your answer to this first subtraction is 0.1778. We're doing subtraction. We only want to go to the thousands place. So to the thousands place, I go 1 over. It's 0.178 would be my final answer. If I look at this, it's addition, right? I get a big number. What is it? 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. And if I look, though, I only want to go, because again, I'm doing addition to the least placement value. That's the tenths. So I go to the tenths. So my final answer would be 21.1. Okay. Now I'm doing division. What do I have here? 3 sig figs. This I have 4 sig figs. Those zeros in front don't count. Why? They're leading. Leading never count. So my final answer should be 3 sig figs. I get a hideous number when I do this. It's like 46.4353. It just goes on and on and on. It doesn't really matter because I only want 3 sig figs. So my final answer here is going to be 46.4. This next problem is a little more confusing. Why? Well, if I look at my denominator, I have what? Subtraction. But it's in a quotient, which is division. So I'm going to follow 2 set of rules. So how do I do this first? Order of operations. I'm going to use good old PEMDAS. Right? Remember PEMDAS? Well, so first I'm going to do the parentheses. And what's in the parentheses? Subtraction. If I write this out, right, the 13.55 minus 10.6, the number I'd actually get would be 2.95. But I want you to realize with subtraction, we're not going to have 3 sig figs. The reason being is this goes to the hundredths, but this only goes to the tenths. So my final answer should only go to the tenths. So really, it'd be the 2.9. Look at the 5 round up, 3.0 would be the final answer if I was just doing subtraction. But I'm going to just remember that I'm supposed to go to the tenths and that I have 2 sig figs here. I'm going to use a 2.95 and divide it into the 23.04, which has the 4 sig figs, just so I reduce round off error. My final answer is going to be, it's kind of hideous, 7.810169, ... So what do I pick? I only want 2 sig figs, so my final answer is a 7.8. All right, what do I do here? Well, same thing. Go to the hundredths place. Why? It's addition, least placement value. So I get a big number here, 12.6786, but I'm going to the hundredths, so I have 4 sig figs. Go over here. It's addition. This only goes to the tenths. So what do I get? When I add this, I get 171.93. But again, I'm only going to the tenths. What do I have? 4 sig figs here. So now I just multiply this all out to reduce round off error. But I know my final answer is going to have 4 sig figs. I end up getting 21.80. But 4 sig figs, that's 0. What is it? It's a, trailing. So I got to put a decimal there to make it significant. And that's my final answer. So if I go here, now it's opposite. Now I'm doing multiplication. So here I'm using 3 sig figs. Right? Over here, it doesn't matter. They're both going to be 4 sig figs for my final answer. So I get, here 35.4. Basically, I'm making it easier because, doing my 3 sig figs plus 2869.436. I want 4 sig figs, so 28.69. Now, what do I do? 4 sig figs, I'm really supposed to only be going to the ones place. when I add it to this, this is to the tenths. So it gets confusing to people because we're adding and they think, oh, well, this has 4 sig figs. I should only go 3 sig figs. No, again, that is multiplication division rules where we pick the least. We're not multiplying here, we're adding. So we go to the least placement value. The ones is not as precise as the tenths, so my final answer should only go to the ones place, and it's 2905. So I hope that helps, giving you some more practice. If you guys have any comments, go ahead and leave them in the comments section. And I want to thank you for watching the videos, and I hope that helps. Thank you so much.